This episode is brought to you by Hyperice, the leader in advanced warm-up and recovery technology. They have tons of innovative products, like Venom-heated wearables to help soothe sore back muscles, Normatec compression boots to speed up recovery and increase circulation, and Hypervolt massage guns to improve mobility. Loved by athletes like Naomi Osaka and Erling Haaland. Try them yourself. Get 10% off your order with the code MOVE at hyperice.com.
Hey there! Did you know Kroger always gives you savings and rewards on top of our lower-than-low prices? And when you download the Kroger app, you'll enjoy over $500 in savings every week with digital coupons. And don't forget fuel points to help you save up to $1 per gallon at the pump. Want to save even more? With a Boost membership, you'll get double fuel points and free delivery. So shop and save big at Kroger today. Kroger, fresh for everyone. Savings may vary by state. Restrictions apply. See site for details.
This episode is brought to you by Pepsi Wild Cherry. Pepsi Wild Cherry is bursting with delicious cherry flavor and a sweet, crisp taste that gives you more to go wild for. Getting wild may look different these days, but whether it's opting for a solo Friday binge watch or a big night out, everyone can indulge in their wild side with Pepsi Wild Cherry. Also available in Zero Sugar. So grab a Pepsi Wild Cherry and get wild.
Thanks for choosing this free Anfield Index podcast. If you'd prefer to listen to this or any of our other shows without adverts, then now's the time to check out Anfield Index Pro. With AI Pro, you can supercharge your entire listening experience. You'll not only get all of our podcasts without the ads, but you'll have them far faster with our Quick Publish feature available exclusively for subscribers. AI Pro also puts you in the heart of our sound studio, with an option to listen to many of our shows live and interact with the podcasters in real time as the shows are recording. Upgrading couldn't be easier. AI Pro is available on all popular podcast platforms, and we have our own apps for Apple and Android. Just head on over to AnfieldIndexPro.com and get started today.
Hello and welcome to your post-match Raw on Anfield Index Pro, podcasting to you from my field here in beautiful rural Ireland. I'm Trev Downey, and joining me to give their immediate reactions to Liverpool 4, Luton 1 in the Premier League from Anfield are Dave Hendrick and Karl Matchett. It was a difficult opening section to the game, Dave, but after that there was a huge amount to take from this in terms of all those kind of intangible things like character, attitude, resilience, digging deep, all those kind of things that we're going to need, let's be honest, as much as we're going to need all the excellence that was on display as well eventually, because they're the kind of things that are going to be core to any Liverpool title getting carried over the line here. And to have that little bit of a cushion now, man, I think this is an enormous result.
Yeah, we were missing 7 starters tonight. Like, just think about that for 1 second. 7
no other
of our
teams
best
doing
11.
That.
No other team can sustain
no other team's carrying that.
You take Ederson, Walker, Rodri, or De Bruyne, or whoever, and the entire starting front three out of, actually 2 of the starting midfielders and the entire starting front three out of the City team. You take the same out of the Arsenal team and they fall apart. Now, obviously, Pep Guardiola would never have 7 injuries because he's got all those nuclear steroids that he pumps his players full of. But that's by the by. We're missing 7 starters tonight, and the pressure is on us because, look, we're playing at home to Luton. We're expected to win. But we also know that City have an easy game at the weekend and Arsenal are home to Newcastle and should beat Newcastle at the Emirates. So we're in a position where if we drop any points, we could come out of the weekend off the top, potentially third. So we had to win tonight. And obviously the first half wasn't good. It wasn't good by any stretch. But at the same time, we still could have scored 2 or 3 goals and probably should have scored 2 or 3 goals in that first half. I look forward to us delving into the tactical approach of the first half, which seemed to be Queeving pumps it long and we hope for the best. In the second half, we came out and we played football and we tore them apart. And obviously the first goal comes from a set piece, but then after that, we are absolutely all over them. And we could easily have scored 7 goals in that second half. And it wouldn't have changed how the game actually went. Virgil has the great header that Kaminski saves. Diaz has a shot that Kaminski makes a great save from. Diaz had
Harvey too, yeah.
Harvey had a great shot that was saved. Diaz had the chance where he got slipped in by Bradley, and he should have cut it back and shot into the far corner, but he let the defender get too close to him, and Menji made the block. Like, we easily could have had 7 in that second half. We were outstanding in the second half, and like, again, you know, you take the goalkeeper out, you've got a backup goalkeeper. You take a fullback out, and even though Trent is a very special fullback, you can still bring a fullback in. But we're talking about missing 2 of our starting 3 midfielders and all 3 starting frontmen. And the 3 stand-ins up front, one of whom likely would have been in midfield if not for the fact that we needed him in attack. All 3 of them get goals. Now, it took them a lot of shots to do so, but they all got goals. They all contributed to the win. And we also got some really good cameos off the bench then from young players. Bobby Clark gets a run out, was very impressed with him. McConnell gets a run out, very impressed. And Jayden Danns, I mean, moment of applause for that kid, comes on against a very physical team who are set to just pull and drag and kick every attacker they come up against. And yet he shows his size, he shows his strength, he plays a gorgeous ball which almost creates a goal for Gakpo and in the end creates the goal for Harvey. I mean, what a night for that kid, who would have had no expectation he was going to be playing for Liverpool's first team up until a week or so ago. This is a really good night for us, and now we're 4 points clear. We can just sit back and enjoy Saturday, let City and Arsenal take care of their business, go into the final with our minds fully focused on that game. And then off the back of it, we've got a week off in the league. We've 10 days off now in the league. And the Southampton game next midweek, I don't care if we throw it. I don't care if we play our under-14 team. I really don't. The league is now in our hands. We've got a real opportunity here, and we will start getting players back. Dominic should be back in a week. Trent will come back after that. Ali will come back. Mo and Darwin should be back at the weekend. So the injury problems will subside quite quickly. Obviously, Ali's end of March and Jota's into April. They'll be a little bit longer, but if we can just keep getting these results and just grinding away and showing what we're capable of and showing the same mindset and mentality that we saw tonight, the fixtures favour us other than City in this run. We can get through this.
Karl, I've had a sneaky feeling about this all season, and I understand absolutely why you might think that, not you specifically, but why one might think that obviously City have the favourites tag, and possibly a majority of people would still consider that they do, given the things that are afflicting the Liverpool squad at the moment and the comparative strength of what City have. But I was trying to get Dave to go there. I know it's not his comfortable zone talking about intangibles, but it does feel a little bit like the chips were really down there this evening. And we have seen previous iterations of this club, not necessarily under Klopp. You know, maybe in 1 or 2 little bad patches, but for the majority not under Klopp's guidance. But we have seen, you know, situations where a team will buckle. They dug in and they started to play football. I think we will hear from you and from Dave a lot of talk about how things did, as he mentions, change tactically. But even when we did get the ball down in the first half and tried to play it, the final ball was absolutely piss poor, and we just didn't have any joined up sort of thinking going on. So it does require, Karl, a huge amount of digging in and finding something. And each of those players who stayed on the park until the job was kind of sorted really did dig in and find an extra level. Elliott went up, Diaz went up, Gakpo went up. And they were the ones who needed to. I thought the rest of them were passable in the first half, but even they stepped up. The defenders got more dominant. And that's the kind of thing, man. That's the kind of thing that gives you that kind of sneaking feeling where you can be possibly a little bit optimistic about our chances here.
Yeah, and I think that's all right, you know. This was definitely a game where it would have been very easy to feel sorry for ourselves. It would have been very easy to think, oh, here we go, everything against us all at once. Especially, to be fair, even though we'd spurned chances, we'd made like 4 chances even before they had their first attack. And then they score off that first attack. Again, it would have been quite easy for heads to drop, or, you know, by half time, maybe, even if not quite that early, then for people to be thinking, you know, maybe it's just not a night, it's not going to be our season, blah, blah, blah. I suspect that a few of them had a bit of a rocket at half time, to be brutally honest. But I also would say that there were maybe 3 players who were fine first half, but were excellent second half. And even towards the end of the first half, they were really, really trying to raise the tempo, be a bit smarter with the passing. I think most of the first half was like, it wasn't particularly, you know, clever or you know, groundbreaking in terms of the approach, but I think it was largely fine. It's just that we were so rushed, so a little bit stupid, to be honest, with the final passing, trying to be, you know, making sure everything ended in a brilliant shot at the end of every single move, and not really taking the care or the intelligence in our play that we should have done. And we did that second half, even though we still had the intensity in our play. I think that was the big difference. I think people like Alexis McAllister in particular, but Conor Bradley as well, second half, I think he was pretty much excellent. Just changing partly the tempo of the game, but also, more importantly, just the intelligence of our play, like making runs into really good areas, releasing the ball at the right time. That was the big difference to the second half for me.
You've brought it up, and I was going to go there anyway, so I'm delighted you brought it up. Just a quick word about Conor Bradley, because I was lucky enough to see him live against Chelsea, and I swear to God, like, the hair was standing on the back of my neck. I was like, this guy is outrageous. And we started to hear one Conor Bradley being chanted. He was excellent again then in subsequent appearance, and obviously then he had that tragedy to deal with, which he's still dealing with. But to come back and do what he did, and you could say that he was one of the ones who was probably not at his very best in that first half. I feel like it's probably safe to say, Karl, at this stage, that this guy, you know, the way you feel a little bit, you feel a bit squirrely about saying it with a kid. But I think after a couple of times seeing Trent, you went, oh, this guy's absolutely going to be all right. And I have that exact same certitude about Conor Bradley. I think he was actually transformative for us in that early period of the second half. He really drove things. And we saw him again recently driving and getting shots away in the last game. This is the kind of, he's ready to go. He's just out of the box, ready to go in the Liverpool first team. That's a real boost.
Well, it is massive. I mean, I'm kind of in the same camp as Dave at the minute in terms of you don't want to put like too much expectation on him, and it's not about the level of quality that he has, because you can't put in a performance like the one against Chelsea. And Mr. Downey, you're extremely fortunate to have witnessed that one, because that was certainly a special game. We were comparing it to Trent against Leicester after the match, in fact, on Raw. I don't want to say anything about it other than the fact that you can't rely on that kind of performance every single time. Like, for someone like Trent to come along is a bit of a one-off, but for someone to come along and be capable of even having a performance where you can compare it to something that Trent has done is very, very fortunate for Liverpool. Now, it's not going to happen all the time. He's a young player. We've got to, you know, allow him to make mistakes, and obviously there'll be ups and downs, same as there was in pretty much every kid's career. But to have someone who can just come in and you haven't even got to worry about them being a young player in the way that, to be fair, we still do with, let's say, Harvey Elliott, for example, who's got a lot more game time to his name, but is still very hit and miss in terms of performance levels. We don't really have that at the minute with Conor Bradley, and maybe it'll happen eventually, but right now it's kind of a plug and play, and the best thing we can say is we haven't really missed Trent as an elite level performer in our team. That's really the only thing you can say which can encapsulate, I think, what Bradley has been able to offer in the end.
Well, that does say it all, to be fair. Dave, we won't spend as long talking about Luton Town because at this stage we've played everybody twice and they are where they are. They're going to struggle. They're right down there with the Ev looking at exiting the division at the end of the season. So we'll keep our chat about them minimal, but I will come to them with you in a second. But just quickly on Liverpool, because we don't need to do a whole lot here either, because the facts are that the hands of Jurgen Klopp were very much tied. When you see the starting lineup being Kelleher and then Bradley and Gomez as fullbacks with Kwanzaa and Van Dijk, I think all of us can go, all right, there's some improvisations needed there, but Kelleher has proved himself a worthy stand-in. Bradley, as Karl just outlined, has been a more than impressive stand-in. And Kwanzaa is highly rated by us. Joey Gomez has been possibly our best defender over the course of the last few games, and Virgil. Then you look at the midfield and you think, okay, Gravenberch, Endo and McAllister is nobody's idea of the best three that we have. But perhaps it's some people's idea of the best two that we have, plus another. So far, things ain't too bad, considering the amount of incredible footballers that we are not allowed or capable of using at the moment. And then we get to the front line, and the front line of Elliott, Gakpo, Diaz. I'll tell you what, on a different day, on a day when they do their second half thing from the start, again, nobody's crying too much. So I suppose what I'm trying to say to you is perhaps we should make a little reference at this point to that thing that I've heard you cite so often in talk about managerial candidates and who might be good and what this job is like, considering all the best jobs in the world are coming available. The reason why Liverpool is the most attractive is because of this squad assembled by Jurgen Klopp. And our bench still has, in terms of obvious first-teamers, Konate and Robertson. Tsimikas is on there. And then we get into Clark, Gordon, Nioni, Dans and McConnell. And they seem to be a tremendous bunch of kids, but you don't want to be relying on them to get you over the league and over the line in the Premier League thing. Tonight, we kind of needed to get them on the field, and we kind of needed the very much second string to do a job up top, which they eventually did, as Karl mentioned, a goal for each of them. So it's probably worth our while at this point saying, you know, a little bit of acknowledgement about what a squad that has been assembled here, because rugby start or no, the job got fucking done, Dave.
Oh, yeah. I mean, look, I've said this before. We're probably 3 players short of having a near perfect squad. If nobody was to leave, other than, say, Matip and Thiago, who are out of contract, and we were to bring in 3 players, you'd look at our squad and you'd think, there's no real weak point anywhere, either in terms of starter or backup.
Yeah.
Like, that front 3 tonight, if it was, let's just say it was Mo, Cody and Diaz, you'd be more than comfortable. If it was Harvey, Darwin and Diaz, you'd be more than comfortable. If it was Elliott, Gakpo and Jota, I think you'd be really comfortable. Like, they're 3 good players. They're 3 players, well, two of them we've spent a lot of money on, but they're 3 players that have performed pretty regularly for us. Now, there is inconsistencies with them, of course. There's inconsistencies with Cody. Sometimes he just seems to get shoved out of games a bit. Diaz seems to get bottled up in his own head at times. And Harvey's still only 20 years of age, so inconsistency is something you're just going to have to live with him. But the one thing you're never going to doubt, especially with the 2 wide boys, is the effort level. Like, there was times in that first half where you wanted to grab hold of Harvey and grab hold of Diaz and scream at them. But you'd never, ever doubt the effort and the desire to make things happen and to do the right things. Like you said with the midfield, like with Alexis and Endo, it's like a light version of Thiago and Fab in the last time we went chasing quadruple, where when we had them on the pitch, it didn't really matter who the third one was, because those 2 as a pair work really well together. And defensively, they're capable of carrying a lot of water for whoever the third one is if that third one happens to be a weaker defensive player. So tonight, for example, Gravenberch is not a good defensive player at all. If it was Harvey, he's not a good defensive player. But the other two can carry that and make that work. And, you know, the same at the back. I mean, like you said, Joe Gomez has been absolutely phenomenal for us this season. I think this is the best season of his Liverpool career. And he's played in 3 different positions for us across the season and been tremendous in all of them. Virgil is unquestionably back to being the best centre-back in Europe. And the 2 kids, I mean, Quansah, I don't know that anybody's told him that this is his first season playing for Liverpool. I think maybe he's gotten a bang on the head in pre-season and Jurgen's gone, by the way, you're 28 and you've been around for a decade. You've got 7 caps. And he's just like, oh, okay, so this is a piece of piss then. Like, he just looks so calm. And Conor Bradley, I mean, like you said, what he's just dealt with in his personal life, that's a hammer blow for anybody at any age. But for a 20-year-old kid, it's got to be very, very tough. And he's come back after, like you said, brilliant performances before he had to take the leave of absence. Absolutely sensational against Chelsea. 2 really good showings against Fulham. And I think Bournemouth was the other one he was really good in. He's come back. He's played against Brentford at the weekend. Looked like he'd never been away. Really, really good. And again, tonight, I think he was a bit iffy on their goal. I don't think the goal was his fault. I think there's somebody else more to blame. But a little bit iffy on it. Let Chong get the wrong side of him. But second half, I mean, second half we stopped inverting him as much and kept him a bit wider and used him as more of an overlapping threat. But he was able to break centrally from higher up. So we saw him get to, like, say, 20 yards into their half and then burst towards central areas. And they just couldn't pick him up at all. I thought that second half performance, I know he only played, 20, 25 minutes of it, but he was so mature, so involved, so clever. He makes the second goal. You know, we've all done the corner taken quickly thing, but it's the throw-in taken quickly tonight. That quick throw, sees Alexis, quick throw, perfect spot on it, and Alexis can just whip it first time and Cody scores. Like, that comes from Conor being so switched on and so tuned in. And what I really like about him is, like, there was a couple of moments where he was involved in defensive actions, and he's going to be hit and miss as a defender because he's 20. That's just the way with young defenders. But there's a couple of moments where he does the right thing, gets a good interception or a good intervention, and you can see Virgil letting him know that's really good. And he almost starts to get a bounce in his step. And then the next one, he's snapping into it as well. And he wants to do well, and he wants to show that he belongs. This kid is, like, I don't know where his ceiling is because he's only played a handful of games. But in terms of the mindset, like, he'll be the type that whatever his talent ceiling is, he will outperform that because he has the right mindset, because he's driven enough to do it. Like, the likes of Henderson and Milner, they massively outperformed their talent level in their careers. They've had much better careers than their talent would have allowed them to. I think he's a more talented player than either of them, but he's got that same mindset, and that will allow him to outperform any talent ceiling on himself, and that's a really good thing. So, like Karl said, we haven't really missed Trent. Like, he's the best right back maybe ever. Genuinely maybe ever. I'd have him in my top 10 all time already. Probably, top 7. But we haven't missed him. So,
and say Conor has hit his ceiling, right? Just say he's one of these early bloomers. Hit his ceiling. If that's his ceiling, that is absolutely sustainable for a Liverpool first teamer.
Yeah, but at the very least, he could be a long-term squad player. Like, you know what I mean? The thing is, because we've got Trent, and Trent is 25. Conor doesn't need to be an every week right back for us. Conor could be a 20, 25 game a season right back for us for the next 4 or 5 years. That's all we need him to be. We don't need him to be Cafu.
Tax day is coming.
Oh, no.
But if you sign up for Robinhood Gold's IRA with a 3% match, you can get up to $195 for the 2023 tax year.
Oh, yeah.
Sign up at Robinhood.com/boost by tax day to get the biggest contribution match on the market. Subscription fees apply.
Investing involves risk. 3% match requires gold for 1 year from first match. Must keep IRA for 5 years. Robinhood Financial, LLC, member SIPC.
Are you that person who has everything? The coolest merch and those must-have fan threads? Well, over at our Anfield Index shop, we've gone that extra mile when it comes to pimping up your Liverpool collection. From our popular range of bespoke design t-shirts, sweaters, hoodies and hats, to our signature edition mugs, prints and coasters, all provided with fast worldwide shipping. We have something for every red. We also stock official LFC merchandise and are licensed with the Premier League and UEFA to sell official iron-on shirt badges and sleeve patches. As a listener to this podcast, you can get 10% off everything with coupon code AIPRO10. Just head over to AnfieldIndex.shop or find us on Etsy by searching for Anfield Index.
Yeah, and again, depending on Trent's evolution and what happens there, because there will be an evolution one way or the other with a new manager. That's just going to happen. They will make the call one way or the other. They'll take Trent aside and say, lad, you're a right back. Enough of this bollocks and inverted midfielder shite. Or they will say, see you are now going to be part of the midfield unit. That's it. And there will be an evolution there one way or the other. And like you say, whether it's to step in or to entirely replace, you just feel a level of confidence with this kid. It's a real testament to him. I haven't felt like that about a new Liverpool footballer for a long, long time. He just looks like he has it all. I'll tell you, the attitude is quite Robbo-esque.
It's very Robbo-esque, and a lot of his intangibles are Robbo-esque. And Robbo's another one that's massively outperformed his talent level as a footballer. Like, Robbo's obviously a very talented footballer, but Robbo's talent was never best left back in the world. But Robbo,
you get the impression
that's it. You get the impression that Connor could do similar, and that
he might score goals as well, Dave.
Yeah, well, he's definitely a lot more calm in front of goal. But like, even things like the way he runs is so Robbo-esque. Like, it's that kind of scampering, head down kind of run. The way he attacks players is the same. The way he gets back to defend is the same. But for us to get him and Jarrell Quansah in 1 year. Now, I know both were out on loan last season, but, they've both come out of the academy for us this year. Like, they have gotten us untold amounts of points this season between the two of them, and they have saved us an absolute fortune moving forward.
It's amazing. And the subs bench like Kanate, Adrian, Simicus, Robertson, Clark, Gordon, Neone, Dans, McConnell. I mean, it's very interesting to look at that, and it's very interesting to think about what if one or two more of those guys from Clark, Gordon, Neone, Dans and McConnell, what if one or two more of them? And I will say, the little bit I've seen of McConnell, I think he might be the one, actually. He has a lovely calm about him on the ball, which I think is actually really, really commendable. We've seen a lot of lads step into central midfield who have been kids. And of course, we're forgetting our little Spanish superstar. We've got to come back there as well, if he ever returns from wherever he is, injury-wise. It's a very exciting time. And Karl, if we just take a quick look, you and I, at the Luton setup, because even if it's just for us to think about what they offered tonight and why it was that they were able to be such a freaking pain in the arse. Because, look, we need to be honest here about the overall go of the game. Liverpool had 29 shots to Luton's 12. We had 13 on target to their 3. We had 62% of the ball, which is, I guess, perhaps a little low for one of those high shot, high dominance Liverpool performance. 503 passes is a little low for one of those high shot, high dominance Liverpool performances. And we roughly equal in fouls. They picked up a lot more yellow cards than we did. But it's, by just a scan at the numbers, it's very much a dominant Liverpool performance. However, that first half was deeply uncomfortable. And it was deeply uncomfortable because Luton Town came tonight with a first 11 of Kaminsky, who I have to say really looks good as a shot stopper. I haven't seen enough of him, and perhaps you can offer an opinion here as to whether he's a little bit more than that. But very, very impressed with his shot stopping tonight. Mengi, Osho, Bell, Ogbene, Sambi Lakanga, Barkley, Doughty, Morris, Chong and Woodrow was the numerical order. That's obviously not how they lined up. Very impressed tonight with Doughty's attitude and sort of, he looks like a lad who would be a very much serviceable Premier League player on a regular basis. Chong started very well. I'm not convinced at all by the lad they had up top tonight. I don't really rate Morris at all, but again, you may have an opinion. It's very different, and mine is based primarily on very few viewings. On their bench, they had Potts, Berry, Kabore, who came on, Burke, and Panzu, who came on, Clark, Krul, Townsend, who came on, and Nelson. And they have, obviously, a young manager in Rob Edwards, who, it's for anyone who's only 41 years of age and they're managing in the Premier League and has come up from the division below. Hats off! There must be something about the lad. Talk to me a little bit about them tonight and why you think they were capable of posing the sort of, if not threat, then stubborn opposition that they seem to be able to provide, certainly defensively, to our sort of stuttering attack in that first half.
I think you used the right words. It's because they're a pain in the ass and they don't know when to say no anymore, which is obviously, from a footballing perspective, an admirable trait, but from an opposition perspective is just really, really irritating. Before I go any further, and just because I know you love this and because this is one that's been catalogued for me for a while, take yourself onto Wikipedia while I'm talking about Luton here, and you have a look at Thomas Kaminsky's wiki picture. You'll love that. I shall. This was right up your alley. What do I think of Luton? I may just wait until you see it, to be honest.
I'm literally opening as we speak very slowly. I don't know why. It's still a blank page. And here we go. And what is happening with the yellow tie here, man? What is happening?
Why is he wearing a tie at all, indeed?
Why is he wearing a tie? I'm very impressed with that. He looks like a good Irish son-in-law there, I'd say. Fair play to him. That's tremendous. Yeah, fair play, young Kaminsky. While we're on him, what do you make of this Belgian lad? Like, I tell you what, he pulled off some great stops tonight.
Yeah, he's a very good shot stopper. I actually saw him. He was he actually had a little trial spell with a couple of Spanish teams and never signed for them in the end while he was still with Anderlecht. While I was sort of backwards and forwards at the time over there. But it wasn't obviously until he came to Blackburn that I really saw him play. So he looks like perfectly fine. I think he's a really, really good shot stopper, but kind of as we...
And what is he, Karl? Is he like late 20s, early 30s, that kind of age, right?
Yeah, he's 31.
Okay.
Yeah. So,
right.
As we quite often say, like, if you are not a good shot stopper, you're not really a goalkeeper anyway. So I do think that that's kind of like baseline of what is useful as a goalkeeper to be, good reflexes and good shot stopper and the rest of it. But I do think that for this particular type of team where they are on the back foot quite a lot, where they do tend to defend really deep inside their penalty area, he's exactly what they need. They don't really need someone who's, great with the feet and comes 20 yards off his line and all the rest of it. They need someone who can defend that 6-yard box, basically, who's really good last line. In terms of previous goalkeepers, Shea Given is probably the elite level of yesteryear in that respect. Someone who's,
yeah, I knew you'd go to Shea.
Yeah. That's the old Premier League style of goalkeeper. Let's say someone who could shot stop basically, and he's very, very good at that. And I think that's fine. I think he's been one of their more consistent players this year. Obviously, he's had quite a lot of practice, to be fair. But again, he's done his job. He's not ever been one of the ones who they've considered needing to replace or swap in or out or anything. So I think he's fine for the job that they have. I kind of like Luton in terms of they play to the very, very maximum of their technical ability and even beyond that. But then I think that costs them a lot as well. I think that they decided quite early on, we're going to play this year. We're not just going to scrap and shit our way through this year. We're going to play and see how that fares for us. And I think that that's probably proven to be right because they've got results where they weren't expected to. They've kept themselves in touch with the dotted line at the very least, even if part of that is because of Everton having a points deduction, obviously. I think they've gotten the most out of a few players who haven't really had the chance elsewhere, like Sambi Lokonga is a good example. And then if you do just get one or two players who can perform above the level of everyone else, and as much as we probably all don't like him, Ross Barkley is one of those players for them. Against Man United, like he was taking a piss out of them at the weekend, like really, really good in terms of transition play and breaking into space and all the rest of it. So I think that they've done as much as could possibly be expected. And I do kind of respect Rob Edwards' approach to saying, let's just play as good as we can and let's see how good that is by the end of the season. They're not just being fearful. They're not just here for the ride. They're not just for the experience. They're going out and they're trying to play their way to safety. And I think that's a really good thing to see. They are not Premier League caliber, but that doesn't mean that they can't stay up if a few things go their way.
Well, just to get a take from you then, while we have the opportunity, they're on 20 points, some 7 points ahead of Burnley and Sheffield United, who are joint bottom on 13 points. They are level on points with Everton, and they are 4 points behind Nottingham Forest and 5 behind Crystal Palace, Brentford in 14th and 15th. And then most people would think Brentford are just safe. That's just the feeling that most people have about Brentford. And I guess they've had a couple of shitty fixtures lately that maybe they'll adjust themselves a bit up the table over the next few. Crystal Palace obviously have an interesting situation and it could go either way. They could drop into it or not. Forest could drop into it or not. Everton are basically in it in terms of being level on points with Luton, who are in the drop zone. It's just a goal difference issue. So what's your gut feeling on whether Luton's, as you described it there, comparatively brave approach to just like we're going to be true to what we are as a team and lads like Ogbene doing bits, do you think that's going to be enough for them to squeak through? Do you feel Everton sneak in? Are Forest or Palace going to get dragged into it? What's your gut feeling?
Palace are good enough to not get dragged in, but obviously with the manager change from Glasner coming in, and we sort of briefly touched on this in Scouted, it kind of depends on how quickly the squad take to him, to be honest, because it is very, very new for him in terms of the league and everything. And it will be a complete sea change for them going from Hodge ball to Glasner ball, which, as Dave pointed out, could be a really, really good thing, a revitalizing thing for a lot of players, but it will still be an adaptation period. So they could definitely go with. I think Crystal Palace are a coin toss at this point, to be honest. I think Luton are probably capable. What have they got left? 13 matches? I mean, I said at the start of the season, I think 34 points this year is enough to stay up. Are Luton going to get another 14 points in 13 matches?
Yeah,
maybe,
when you put it that way. Yeah.
But maybe not.
Yeah, it's interesting when that's exactly. Listen, as ever, when I go to you for something like that, you broke it down into something that makes it easy to understand and tangible for everybody. So yeah,
there's
Dave,
one aspect though that Karl hasn't considered here, which is that Nottingham Forest and Everton are both facing charges for breaking profits and sustainability.
Yeah, look, if they get points deducted, then all bets are off, obviously. I'm not going to bother.
Luton are the big winners here. If those two sides get the points deductions that they should get for breaking the rules, Luton will be 6 points clear of Nottingham Forest, and Forest will be 17th in the league.
Yeah, listen, if Forest get 10 points off them as well, then Burnley and Sheffield United basically have to fight it out to be not least shit, because they'd only be 1 point behind them, and both of them could stay.
And they'd be because they'd be 3 points ahead of Everton, who would be on 10 points, which would be a remarkable thing if they'd taken 30 points and all of a sudden 20 of them were just taken away because they cheated in previous seasons to stay in the division. This is the one season where they've been actually competent on the pitch, and they're being punished for the previous seasons where they were incompetent on the pitch and off the pitch.
Poor El Daishi. Tell me I'm a guy who has spent the last 2 days suffering under a migraine, and most of the previous days to that just juggling about 18 million things. I'm not abreast of the news cycle as I once was this year. What is the story on when that decision, that call will be made on Forest and Everton?
Well, there was reporting over the weekend that the Forest decision could come down this week, but there's been no movement on it since. Everton, because Everton are appealing the first one, remains to be seen when the punishment for the second one will land. But I think what they may well do is they might cut what Everton got deducted the first time from 10 to maybe 6 or 5. But I think they'll levy the 10 points for the second one as well. And if they want to appeal that, I mean, that's going to go through the summer, by which point the season is over. And it will make no difference. But the thing is, Luton would be well within their rights to start making some noise about wanting these points deductions levied because they're the team who potentially could go down if Everton and Forest aren't punished. Now, I think they could go down either way. But it's certainly going to be interesting. And you have to give Luton huge credit because they finished last season in the playoffs and had to battle their way through the playoffs and win a penalty shootout against Coventry in the playoff final. Whereas Burnley ran away with the championship last year, and Sheffield United were miles better than everybody other than Burnley. Luton grinded their way up. And yet the three teams have come up. Luton have spent by far the least money. They've clearly come up with a much more settled game plan and not just for this season, but the long haul as well, of what they know they want to do, with a manager who's clearly been told, look, don't worry about getting relegated. Just do your best. You've got security here. And they've performed so much better than the other two teams. Even though they're not particularly good, they've only won 5 games. They're really, really annoying to play, like you boys said. They're a horrible side to play because they have a bit about them. They've got a lovely blend of youth and experience. They've got pace and quality out wide. They can go long. They can be direct. They don't have many Premier League caliber players. But Karl mentioned Ross Barkley. Ross Barkley is a very unfortunate player. He's a very, very talented footballer who had a number of injuries, but more importantly, what really hurt his career was he came through the Everton Academy. If he'd come through anywhere else, I think we'd be looking at Ross Barkley as arguably the best English midfielder of his generation. Now, it's not a very strong generation, admittedly. Jordan Henderson is probably the best English midfielder of that generation. Barkley's a much more talented player, but injuries and the Everton factor really hurt his career. Really, really hurt his career. But it's great to see him having this Indian summer to his career. Like Karl said, he was a class above the United midfield at the weekend. And I thought first half he was very, very good. Even second half he had some nice moments, but he's a good player. There's some likeable lads in that team. I will say though, Cauley Woodrow, I mean, we had to win tonight. We couldn't be losing to a team that includes a fella whose name is a Hamlet in fucking Harry Potter or something. You couldn't be losing to a team like that. No, absolutely not.
Yeah, I mean, that's inconceivable. It's interesting to look at that end of things as well, and just to talk about it, because sometimes Raw is we can't wait to get to the match, and sometimes it's just the match was a bit weird, and we want to talk about other things. And Guy, by the way, has put into the chat there that he'd love to see the Derby record getting broken, which is, I think, spectacularly optimistic thing, because Everton currently, unless I'm mistaken, and feel free to tell me I'm wrong here, but I think they're on 20 points. And if, say, they get another 10 hammered at them, didn't Derby have that lowest points record under Mick McCarthy with 11? Isn't that right? It was 11 points.
I think it was 11 or 12.
So it's going to be that's going to be a bad whole end to the season if they can't pick up one more point. And that's the thing about
11 in 07, 08.
Yeah,
Mick McCarthy. Sunderland have the next two. 15. Actually, no, two of the next three. 15 points and 19 points.
That was Mick as well, wasn't it?
Mick was the 15-point one, I think.
Oh man,
Aston Villa actually, probably a big shocker. 17 points when they went down in 2016, which is genuinely atrocious.
I think that's a bit mean on Mick. He's not that bad of a lad in terms of management. It
wasn't Mick's fault though. Mick took over that year in like March or something. It had been Howard Wilkinson had been manager for, I think Howard Wilkinson had been manager for a chunk of that season, and then Mick took over.
And actually, guys corrected me, Derby was actually Billy Davis and Paul Jewell.
Oh, we did forget Huddersfield. 18, 19 Huddersfield, 16 points. So, yeah, that's a shambles. Guys put in the quote there from Rob Edwards, and I have to say, I really like the way that guy handles himself and goes about his business. He's very straight to the point. He was effusive in his praise of Liverpool, the team, the crowd, the whole lot tonight. The crowd, by the way, abysmal first half, brilliant second half. Hello, I'm here to annoy you. I'm here to annoy you into listening to more of me and more of others on EPL Index. We don't just have the Anfield Index stuff. We've got EPL Index as well, which covers the entirety of the Premier League. And we have 3 podcasts and a whole bunch of really good writing on EPLindex.com. The podcasts are my own Two-Footed podcast, which is every day at 4 p.m, Monday through Friday, covering the whole league. We have A Tad Predictable, hosted by Tadiwa. You know Tadiwa, he does Anfield Index. He presents A Tad Predictable before every Premier League match week. And then Kevin DeVries and his crew on the EPL Roundtable, they're every week after the Premier League match week. So make sure you listen to everything we're doing on EPL Index and follow us there on Twitter at EPL Index. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Yeah, made the difference. And it will make the difference if we're going to win this league. That's another intangible right there. Let's get on with it and have a look at the match. And we'll do this more quickly than we normally do. Karl, let's you and I have a look at the first half. A frustrating sort of an affair. There were 2 corners inside the first 80 seconds for the Reds. Nothing accrued from that. And a fantastic chance in 3 minutes where Luis Diaz was through and kind of fluffs it. He seemed quite indecisive in the moment. And on 4 minutes, Harvey plays a great ball into Diaz. He cuts in from the right on his left foot and he curled his shot wide of the far post. Now, a lot of people will say that was the chance, and I get it. But for me, the one earlier on was an even better opportunity. Some decent possession by them on 6 minutes, and we saw some half-decent kicking by Caoimhín Kelleher to Diaz in particular there in the 7th minute. I'm not sure how that kicking went overall, and I very much agree with, I think, a point Dave made earlier on, that there was quite a lot of hoofing going on to lads who are absolutely not favourite to win the ball. I can see how that works as a tactic even at times, because you get the breaking ball and you get all over that, but we certainly weren't doing that particular thing for the first half. On 9 minutes, 2 corners, sandwiched by a dangerous Harvey Elliott cross in. And on the second of the corners, Cody had a sort of an improvised volley, flicking volley thing saved. They got on the front foot on 10 minutes. A decent ball in by Doughty went across the face of our goal. And then within 1 minute, they're a goal up. And that's where we're going to pause here, Karl, you and I. If there's anything you want to talk about that opening period, as well as the goal, please tell me. But they go one up. It's Ogbene. Chong drove in from the left-hand side, played a 1-2, got his shot away. Quivin saved it. I think it was with his legs. And it sort of moves across the face of goal, and we're looking to see if we're going to be first to the rebound. Unlike in the second half where we were first to every rebound, in the first we were not, and Ogbene is the man who heads it home. I think I saw Dave being quite critical about the defending on the right side on Twitter, and I'm sure you have a similar opinion. I'd be interested to hear your take on that goal. Feel free to talk to me a little bit about that and about the goal itself. We'll push on, you and I, after this, but if there's anything else in that opening period you want to mention, do that too.
I mean, mostly just Diaz and then the goal, to be honest. That's what that opening period was. It did look like we had the easy route behind them quite often, quite direct, like you said. A couple of really clever runs, I will say that, even if the first half wasn't brilliant in every category. We did make some very, very good runs, good movement off the ball, picked up, I think, Elliott and Diaz in particular, picking up the ball in really good spots between defenders and between defence and midfield lines. Not really sure what he was doing in those first few minutes, though, because he should have scored twice, no question about that, especially the first one. Better first touch, and he gets his shot away, and shouldn't be too much, really, the keeper can do about it from that sort of distance. Their goal, I think, was a little bit down to having not just three non-starters in that sort of triangle between goalkeeper, right side centre-back and right-back, but also three quite inexperienced players. You know, even though Keller's got years, he hasn't got appearances, he hasn't got real experience to his name. And maybe just a combination of that being slightly slow to react and being slightly below the level of our usual starters is maybe what's allowed a team to get in a little bit too easily there. I don't think it was awful, but all three of them combined, maybe you just want like a 1 or 2% better in each of them, and then they probably don't concede the goal in the same way. Maybe Kelleher, because he's in goal, I saw him get a bit of attention because he sort of tried to anticipate it, I think, and went a little bit to his left and had to save it with his feet, like you say. Maybe if he stands his ground, it's an easier save or whatever, but he did save it. So I don't think that he should have too much flack come his way for that. Obviously, like you say, we were not first to the rebound on that occasion, but it could have gone anywhere. The player could have not made a run into the far post. Joe Gomez could have been a yard closer to him, but I don't have too many complaints. It's just one of them things where everything falls their way.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely fair. And just in case there's anything egregious that you want to come in on, Dave, like I say, I saw your tweet about the defence on the goal. Anything you want to add to that just before Karl and I finish out the first half?
Yeah, we stand and we watch them play the ball through us. Bradley gets the wrong side of Chong. Gravenberch is in a perfect position to come across and cut it off, and ambles over and makes no real effort on the ball. It's genuinely embarrassing. I don't want to hear that he's only 21. 21 has nothing to do with lack of effort. That is a pure effort thing. Get your fucking arse in gear 15, 20 minutes into a game and put the effort in. That's the be-all and the end-all. Liverpool fans will excuse a lot. Mediocre players become heroes to the cop because they put the effort in, because they work their bollocks off. You have all the talent in the world. There's no excuse for that lack of effort. And it wasn't the only time tonight. It was 4 or 5 occasions where his lack of effort was just shameful.
Do you want to finish that out in terms of talking about that kid now? Because he is one of the guys who makes way in the second half, and it might be an interesting thing to just talk about, because and again, I don't want to derail too much myself, and Karl are going to finish out the first half in a second, but I do. He's one of the most divisive characters I've seen join the Liverpool squad in ages, in terms of people's opinions. and the extremity of them. I think we would be very much sort of just please play well, and therefore we will love you, and play to your capacity, and therefore we'll admire you. And it feels a little bit like that's not what's happening with that kid. And it's a bit frustrating, Dave, isn't it? Because he had sort of, to an extent, in the last game, done what we want him to do. And from what you're saying now, this performance was a little bit of a slip back.
Yeah, it was. I mean, look, he had some good moments in the first half on the ball. He picked the ball up and had a couple of nice turns where he moved away from Luton players, and he made the right decision with the pass. But he played 78 minutes. He only played 25 passes in a game in which we dominated the ball. He was barely involved in the play in the second half. He came out and just ghosted the second half. But his defensive work is the issue. It's the effort. That's all it is for me. It's the lack of effort. And people will say, he does this well and he's got great talent. And that's all well and good. All well and good. But I think he had 5 tackles in the game tonight. But they were all in a very short span in the middle of the park. There's multiple occasions where their midfielders run off the back of him, where the ball goes wide to an area where he's covering because the fullback is advanced. And there's no effort. There was one in the second half where Ogbonna broke down their right, our left. And he beats the first man, which was Diaz. And Gravenberch is in a good position to step across. Gomez is stepped back, waiting for him. But I assume expecting the midfielder to come across and at least make a challenge. And he just stands and watches him. And Ogbonna gets all excited, knocks the ball past Gomez and is away. He just that's just not acceptable. That lack of effort is not acceptable. Not if you're not having an enormous involvement on the ball. And like I said, 25 passes in 78 minutes. I just don't know how you can only have that many passes. I don't know how that happens, that's the number of passes you have in a game in which we have that much of the ball tonight.
Yeah, it's a difficult one. In the first half, there was a couple of occasions where he decided to take shots when he had much better options. There was a right-footed shot where he had a simple ball to slip in Gatbo, who was in space in behind the defence. There's a left-footed shot he takes earlier in the first half when he can slip the ball wide to Diaz, who's got Gomez moving on an overlap and can get us in behind. And he takes on these shots that have little to no chance of going in. It's decision-making and it's effort. Now, the decision-making we can put down to age, but again, the age thing is a bit of a false narrative. Yes, he's 21. He's played more minutes in his career than Curtis Jones and similar amounts of minutes to Darwin Núñez. Football age and real age are different things. He's a lot more experienced than most 21-year-olds. And yet, he still plays a very immature game. That's the concern I would have. The talent is sensational. There was one turn he had today where he dropped his left shoulder and Barkley bid on it and went chasing after it. And he just turns to his right and he's away. And you're just that is gorgeous. The simplicity of it, the fluidity of it. You want to see more of that, but you also need to see the decision-making improve. You need to see the effort. If you're going to play in midfield, you need to see the effort. He was lucky tonight that he had the other two boys in there because they dug him out a hell of a lot, especially Endo, who got through a Trojan amount of work tonight. Yeah, we'll speak of Endo in the second half. A tremendous set of lads, all on his own. Karl, in terms of the remainder of the first half, it's interesting because after we go a goal down, Cody does have a little bit of a drive from the middle and a shot that leads to a corner. We put on some great pressure. It's a good response by us. Doughty picks up a yellow on 17. Queeving gets down to the feet of an attacker at one point and then gets up and launches a throw to launch a counter attack. And Harvey's through ball, like almost every final ball in the first half, was poor. 27 minutes. Gomez cut in and shot over the top, and I swear to God he took a shot on because the cop told him to. On 31 minutes, Diaz almost slid home an Endo pass forward after a really good move, and Endo does really well and plays the ball into Luis, and he is at full stretch trying to get in at the near post just to dribble it home, but again it's just almost but not quite. And my stream died at that stage, and I think something happened. But I because when I got back, the crowd seemed quite enlivened, and that in and of itself is an interesting point, because we had that 08-09 field to Anfield that I remember very well from being in it, where that famous game where we drew 0-0 and, you know, stayed top of the league, but it wasn't enough, and it was just like everyone was frankly shitting it, and the angst was outrageous, and I don't want to see that creep in. And I love the way that they rallied in the second half, and that Anfield rallied in the second half specifically, and I hope that's going to continue, because I think we're going, like I said, I think we're going to need that intangible stuff. On 36 minutes, Kwanzaa made a fantastic Hansen-esque run forward and played the ball in, which ended up with an opportunity where Cody basically just kicked the lad right up his arse and gave away a free kick. It was an air kick. He was expecting the ball to come to him. It didn't. We saw another great break launched by Connor Bradley, and Diaz eased away, resulted in the corner. Harvey had a shot over the top from that corner eventually. A yellow for Woodrow in 41. Another shitty final ball in 42 minutes. Diaz just couldn't get to Harvey's attempt to play him in. At that point, it's interesting, Karl, because Kloppo has a go at the crowd, and I've seen people on Twitter immediately saying, you know what, maybe do a thing and then the crowd will get on your side. And I understand both sides of the argument. I genuinely do. I really genuinely do, in a way that I admitted recently to being occasionally like the guy who's like, not often, but occasionally in Anfield and just a bit grumpy, like, for fuck's sake, that kind of guy. And I got absolutely hockeyed by the toppest of top Reds, who said, you're there to contribute to the atmosphere. It's your job. And I was like, fuck you, you know. But that's what I got. And I felt a little bit like it was going that way. It was really uncomfortable. Anyway, Kloppo has a go. Another attack got smothered on 43. 2 minutes were added and nothing happened in them. And that's the end of the first half. Now, you take it wherever the hell you want, my friend, in terms of a focus for that first half, whether it's a player or an idea or a tactic. Go ahead.
No, it's not a player. I think that with one or two exceptions of players, I think we had a bit of a hive mind overtake here of just senselessness, in that everything had to be done at 100 mile an hour and everything had to be turned around and done in the game won before half time. And it didn't need to be that, but that seemed to be how we were approaching it. And like I said, it was all just it was all a bit frantic. There were far too many moments where we could have made something for ourselves, but we were not even really close to doing so, just because everything was a bit too last minute-y. It was like we were already down to the last 10 minutes. So a few times we saw, like, Elliott had a really good chance to make a through ball and got the weight of it wrong or got the timing of it wrong, and Diaz was taking on shots that he didn't need to, when earlier, if he could have taken them earlier, we should have done. I just think that far too many players, with the exception of probably Alexis McAllister and probably a little bit of Endo, I think most players were sort of affected by that, to be honest. I think that that's why the crowd were not responding in the way that usually they would, to be fair, if we'd had, 12 shots in the first half, if we were attacking in the manner and the frequency that we were. I actually didn't realise it was the crowd that Klopp was turning around to shout at. I thought it was one of the players who maybe hadn't tracked back or hadn't made a run forward on that last counter-attack or something like that. So fair enough, if that was the crowd he was shouting at, then, he's not shy to do it, is he? He sort of gets them on side and then tries to do a little bit of extra after the match, perhaps to kind of make up for it. Didn't we see that as well? So I wasn't demoralised in any way, but I was a bit frustrated because of the stupidness of some of the play. I think that's the main message that Klopp would have had. You're playing quickly enough, but you're not playing well enough. You're not playing smart enough. I think that was the big issue for us because we were still opening them up. Like, there was a lot of praise for Luton and a lot of saying, they're holding Liverpool at bay, defending well. They weren't really. We were having a lot of shots and a lot of openings. We were just not being particularly diligent about the way that we were fashioning those chances. And so everything was still a bit scrappy, but the left-hand side was relentlessly opening them up. I think Diaz had 6 shots by half time. So not too much concern at that point, but just definitely some frustrations.
I don't need a VPN. I've got nothing to hide. This is what I used to tell myself before I hooked up with LibertyShield.com. Not only is my home internet now fully encrypted, but I can now access all the websites I want, whenever I want, and do so from absolutely anywhere. As a Liverpool fan, I love to know I can now watch every match, regardless of whether it's on UK TV or not. My Liberty Shield VPN makes sure nothing is blocked and guarantees me super fast streaming speed throughout that match. You can get connected right now with their software package, which includes a 48-hour no-obligation free trial and instant access to their apps for Apple, Android, Fire TV, PC, Mac, and Android TV. Or go a step further like I have and get one of their pre-configured VPN routers. These small but powerful devices allow you to easily connect every device in your home to VPN, making it the perfect solution for smart TVs, Mac boxes, and games consoles. Visit LibertyShield.com today and use coupon code AIVPN25 to get 25% off at checkout.
Yeah, and the concern arises from the fact that the league is there to be won. It doesn't arise from any other. There's no other anxiety here. The anxiety is, Jesus Christ, we could win this. Dave said earlier on that Joe Gomez was having his best season, and I the only thing I would disagree with on that, I'm entirely agreeing with it actually, is that the only thing that rivaled it was his contribution to the league winning season. And this is where I think maybe stars are aligning. I love this as a concept, that Joe Gomez has been wonderful across 2 particular campaigns where Kloppo will end up with the top prize. That would be absolutely gorgeous for him and for Kloppo and for all of us. But we've just been informed that Dave has to jump off the call. So, Karl, you and I are going to be taking on this second half on our lonesome. And in the end, then, we're going to bring in Guy for a bit of a sum up, as we usually do, where we get the sum up from both of our analysts. So we'll get Guy's and we'll get yours. Let's drive into this second half because it's fun because of the attitudinal change and a lot of other things that happened. They made a sub, and you're going to have to help me out here because my stream died, Karl. A Conga, I think, went off. I'm not sure who it was that came on at that point. Do you have that detail for me?
Yeah, that was Pele Radicampanzu came on for La Conga.
That's it. There you go. And soon after the second half started, John Achterberg got himself a yellow card for being a shouty man, and our man Andy Madley didn't like it. And I think in a different night, on a different occasion, perhaps Andy Madley might have warranted some discussion, but I can't be arsed, to be honest. Again, my stream died pretty soon after this, but just before it did, Harvey Elliott took on what ended up being quite a poor shot, dragged across the face of goal when he had options. But I came back into the live situation on 54 minutes And Harvey was front and centre again. A decent cross to Cody Gakpo on 55 minutes. Cody had a really good near post dig himself. He was driving at that near post, the right hand side, if you're looking at it, straight on. And the keeper gets the save. It's a proper save and it ends up as a corner. And from that corner, Karl, we go level. It's Van Dijk. And it's a beautiful header. He had actually been sort of indicating to McAllister to just hold on a bit. It was lovely. It's lovely when you see these things work out. Just wait till he gets into the position he wanted to be in, and he did. And when Virgil does this, he's absolutely... nobody can deal with it. When you see the replay, the run that he makes is so long, and in comparison to an awful lot of goals from corners, so long and so deliberate. The contact is absolutely gorgeous. It's bulleted. It's directed. It was a great, I think, statement goal, if you understand what I'm saying there, Karl. Does that make sense to you? It was kind of like, do you know what? Fuck you. We're back in this and we can do what we want.
Yeah, I fully agree. Even the noise of the celebration, you got very, very subtle differences in celebrations from the crowd when it's like the opener very early on in a game sounds very different to an equaliser in the 84th minute, sounds very different to a tap-in on the 74th minute to go 4-0 up, sounds very different to a consolation when you're 3-0 down. They all have very subtle differences. And this one was yes, finally, now go again. That's what that one was. And that was what it was from everyone. Yeah. Even like Virgil's celebration, he had himself a little knee slide, but there was not much expression in that face. It was, all right, let's go. And everybody just went for it. And obviously what happens after that is extreme, but it was already going to happen. Like as soon as we scored that first one, goals 2 and 3 were already going to happen. No matter when they came, whether it was a minute or 5 minutes or even 15 minutes, those goals were already written in stone as soon as Van Dijk scored that one.
Yeah, it felt... There was a lovely sort of intent to it, as you've described there as well. Just an absolutely gorgeous connection with it, and to see it the way that it entered the net, everything. Lovely to see McAllister involved as well. And we continue, and Conor Bradley at this point is front and centre. He gets himself a shot on target, really well saved. Listen, it's only a matter of time before this kid scores. It's not like I just feel like he's a little bit different to the Andy Robb. Well, yeah, of course he does have one. Yeah, but I watched it. But what I meant to say is, it's only a matter of time before he is, I think, and I'm putting it out there. This is what I meant to say, Karl. I think he's going to be in the Trent category in terms of goals. I genuinely do, because he just keeps getting him. Do you remember the effort in the last game where he improvises this outside of the foot shot? You remember that one?
Yeah, going down to the bottom corner and the keeper.
Like who the fuck does that? Who plays? You remember the whole, Gary Neville right back, Jamie Carragher right back. Like that generation, they don't know what that is. They can't conceive of doing that. It's such a wonderfully deliberate attacking action. I just think this guy's going to score a hatful. I really do. I think he's going to be in the Trent bracket soon. Anyway, he has a good dig on 57. Well saved. Townsend comes on for Woodrow. Oh man, that was a badly timed substitute, because within a minute of that, we are 2-1 up, and the game is starting to get away from Luton. It's Cody Gakpo in a very gratifying way. It's Cody Gakpo, Karl. It's a quick throw in by the aforementioned Connor, who picks out McAllister, who's pretty much on the byline. He swings over a kind of half volley cross, and Cody's finish is really impressive with the head. The whole move is gorgeous. You've got to love it. It's quick, it's improvised, and everything about it is sort of exactly executed perfectly, from the throw to the cross to the finish. I loved it, man.
Yeah, I mean, this is really good from Alexis again. It's, we mentioned earlier the throw-in taken quickly, and that is obviously what makes the opening, but it's Alexis, who was making these runs through into the channels, into the penalty box from the last 15 minutes of the first half, and continued it here where the whole team stepped up the tempo. And like I said, the movement was much more incisive. The passes were a lot more intelligent, if we're being brutally honest, in that second half. And Alexis is obviously one of the ones who can pick a pass when it's most needed. And like a few of the corners weren't great in the first half, whatever, but he found the way to deliver that one to the right area eventually. And again, with this run, and he's able to pick out a person who is in a very, very dangerous area. And fair play to Gakpo, because he's not my favourite forward. And I think he costs us more opportunities than he maybe makes the most of at the moment, but he does keep going. Like, even if he loses 5 challenges in a row and doesn't get 3 shots away, he'll still get himself in that similar sort of area for the next one that might come his way. So definitely have to give him praise for that. And he does get himself into the 6-yard box fairly regularly, sometimes a couple of seconds late, sometimes a little bit early, sometimes he's not physical enough when you want him to be, but he's still there. And that, across the course of the season, will get him probably half a dozen goals from this sort of range. Obviously, timing-wise on this one, very, very much appreciated, because suddenly it's gone from a really, really tricky game where we've still got a lot of work to do to, in the space of a minute, you've probably deflated the entire opposing team's hopes, ambitions, energy, everything. Everything about it has just changed completely in the space of, 100 seconds or whatever it was. Good header. I don't think he could have possibly missed from that. Maybe Darwin could have hit the bar, but apart from that, I think everyone should be scoring from there. But again, you've got to get in there. You've got to make that run. You've got to get the wrong side of the defender. So just very, very thankful that we did do it as quickly as we did.
Yeah, and anyone who's been lucky enough to be present in the ground recently understands that when that change happens, when the crowd is like absolutely fucking feral, you're in trouble if you're the opposition. And it kicked in on that point right there. And Cody Gakpo's front and centre. And I have all the same misgivings as you do about Gakpo. 100%. It's very interesting to hear you. The way you articulate it there is almost exactly what I would say if I was asked. And it's interesting. I like the kid. I think he's got a great attitude. I think that's exactly also to sort of echo what you said. His best trait is that he doesn't go missing. He may not be effective, but he doesn't go missing. We've seen heroes of comparative yesteryear like Sadio Mane, who can have stinking afternoons, but he'll never go missing. And it's a good trait. Gakpo has it, and he's involved almost immediately after his goal, Karl, with a great move, and he has a dig that leads to a corner. Van Dijk has a shoulder, I think, rather than a header from that. Really well saved by Kaminsky, which led to another free kick and another corner from which we got nothing. And on 66 minutes, we bring on Robbo for Connor Bradley. We'll pause there briefly because I'm just anxious to hear your take on this. To me, that just said Connor's absolutely starting the final. I'm not sure what the Trent prognosis is, but I just thought that must be a lovely feeling at this early stage to be going, he's saving me for the final in Wembley.
Yeah, not bad, eh? Considering where he's come from and how quickly, I think it is exactly as you've said. He's going to be starting the final there. That's arrest him and keep him ready for. I guess it's early on in his career and he's not played everybody yet, but so far I think we can say Chelsea is his favourite opponent. So hopefully exactly the same again. That's all we can imagine.
We'll take that.
I was surprised. I must say I was surprised tonight that given both fullbacks changed and obviously started with both right-footed fullbacks in the end, I thought Tsimikas might be the one to come in if we were going to be changing left back especially. So kind of 3 of the 4 fullbacks have played now. Trent's still not there, and Costa still can't get a game. So I'm not really sure what that's looking like for him at the minute. I think Gomez deserves to start the final, but I'm with you. Based on tonight and the sub, I guess it's going to be Bradley and Robertson.
Yeah, it's a tricky one. Who can know the mind of Jurgen Klopp? Nobody really, if we're being honest. But as he goes off, there's the one Connor Bradley chance, which is absolutely smashing to see. And we continue our pressure. Some tremendous pressure on the 69th minute. It was sort of relentless, and the goal happens then on 70, and it is Luis Diaz. And that, to me, was possibly the most gratifying moment of the night, because if injuries are going to be a thing, and they are going to continue to be, we need everyone to do the bits. And it's lovely to see him, after having a rugby first half, to get the goal that he gets. Robbo does brilliantly in this, Karl. A great interception on the left-hand side. But previous to that, I think he kind of made a drive up the flank. But anyway, he makes a great interception. And the ball sort of falls into the path of Luis Diaz. He kind of drifts left of the 6-yard box with it. Looks to be going into a direction that's completely unfavourable for a lad who's as inclined towards his right as he is. And he finishes beautifully with his left foot at the near post, between the keeper and the near post. I mean, it's the kind of thing that we were just thinking was beyond him from that first half. That was a very gratifying moment. And you'd imagine, with his record of scoring in recent times now, it could be very important for us as a club going forward.
Yeah, look, Dave mentioned earlier, all three of the starting forwards scored in the end. All of them were involved in creating a lot of chances as well. Diaz, I mean, 10 shots in a game is definitely not usual for someone to get that many, and obviously a lot of them were off target for him first half especially, so I'm really glad that he did get the goal. He's got form at the minute, to be honest. Like, it's not elite form in terms of like his clinical edge and consistency, and every time he's in, he finds the back of the net, but he's still managing to find a way. Is it 5 goals and assists now in his last 4 Premier League games, I think. So, going into a cup final, he's getting goals, he's creating chances. Elliott may or may not start, but at least he's done bits tonight. Gakpo has scored a couple recently. So even though injuries are really obviously hitting us in that area, hopefully we get at least one of the Nunez and Salah back for the weekend. But it's really good going in with all of them. Should have pretty high confidence after finding the back of the net tonight, after getting loads of shooting practice in. It was a really good finish in the end, and it was much cooler than you would imagine a lot of players would be if they'd already had 8 shots in the game and hadn't scored. But yeah, again, good response from Robertson after coming on. He's the one who made the goal with, again, a quick press. Don't know if we can quite call it a transition play. I think it came off his knee towards Diaz in the end, but still, it's the relentless pressure that we have at that stage in the game. Really high pressing, people working in tandem with each other. That's what creates the overloads. And we've got the individual skill to make use of space then.
Yeah, love the Robbo energy, which is continued later on. We'll get to it. And every little weapon in the armory is going to be important if we're going to get this thing over the line. They bring on Kabore for Doughty on 74 minutes, and for them, that's not great news. I know Kabore was one of the guys who was involved in the, I don't know if you saw, I'm sure you saw it, the Twitter, I hope it was a spoof thing that was doing the rounds there, where some lad was comparing the Liverpool 11 to the Luton 11. It was quite comical. Kabore won his slot, of course. But anyway, he came on for Doughty in 74. Diaz has yet another shot saved. And it was a decent dig, this one, on 74 minutes after some good approach play by us. Harvey has a shot saved on 75, and again it was in the corner, and the keeper did well to get down. Much and all as he may look like a young lad making his confirmation in Ireland in a Catholic church on his wiki page, he can save a shot, this lad. 75 minutes, that was Harvey's shot. 76, Barkley picks up a yellow. Clark is brought on for Gravenberg on 76 minutes as well. And on 80, there was an amazing opportunity for Cody. Endo did fantastically, won the ball, then played a great through ball. By the way, I fucking love Endo. Just, I'll tell you what, if you were to talk about the potential for cult hero status. I don't think anyone's got bigger potential than Endo. That was absolutely fantastic, and it was kind of indicative, I think, of what he's been since he's found his feet. I was really worried about him at the start because realistically he got monstered in tackles, and he'd do some good things and then he'd do some things where you go, oh God almighty, he's not able for this physically. Well, gum shield in and Endo's here, and I'm delighted to see it. You can come back to that in the end if you want, but we'll drive on towards the goal and maybe just towards the end if we want to. There's a yellow for Joe Gomez on 81 minutes. I don't know where he is in terms of yellows at this stage, but I'd imagine we're racking them up, including the previous lad I mentioned, Endo. More pressure by them on 82. Which led to a corner. Barkley hit a shot over the top on 87 minutes. They were kind of in the ascendancy at that point, like having a go, to be fair to them. On 87, we bring on McConnell and Dans for McAllister and Diaz. And on 89, we're 4-1 up. And the score, young Matchett, is quite interesting because Dave mentioned before the mics went live that he was receiving messages with regard to this particular scoreline. I was also, and I think they may come from the same American lady in terms of Lisa Marie, who was telling me that at one stage when we were 1-0 down, basically along the lines of "I blame Matchett." She can come at me on the next AIP. I'm burying her here. I blame Matchett, and I said back, and I promise you this. I said, well, hopefully it'll be 4-1. And he'll still look like a genius because you predicted 4-0. And I tell you what, man, between the two of us, we're an absolute Nostradamus style team because it was 4-1 in 89 minutes. It is Harvey Elliott, who happens to be the offspring of Lisa Marie Hanahan. It's a great drive down the left, a foot in by Robbo following that. Like, he drives down the left, the ball breaks, and then he gets a foot in, and it's a really, really important foot in. Dan's does brilliant, uses his body strength, holds off the defender, plays a gorgeous through ball to Cody Gakpo, and Cody has his sort of toe poke saved. When the ball spills, it spills to young Hanahan, Harvey Elliott, and he stops and he deliberately curls the ball to the top corner. And honestly, I don't give a shit about anything else after that because that was the coup de grace, Karl, that the performance of the second half deserved.
Yeah, definitely. Listen, I'm not going to have any more of this slanderous attacks on my name. Guy is the ringleader. I know he's one in the background, and I know Lisa Marie is very definitely the vocal aspect of this insubordination. But listen, enough of this, okay? I've been to games, there's been no draws. I've been to games, there's been no injuries. We've won them. I've predicted 4-0 here, and I was 1 goal out. All right, I'm having this as me being basically spot on, other than the fact that, you know, there's a little bit of misfortune first half. So let's just put a pin in it, okay? Because I'm going to the cup final at the weekend, and nothing about it is going to be my fault, okay? End of discussion. Right. Harvey Elliott today. I usually save the stats, obviously, for the end of the game, but this one is worth doing now. He was another one who was not great in the first half, kept going and kept putting himself, and like I said, he picked up some really, really smart positions, but then the execution was not always great. Like, there were a few underhit passes, a couple of shots which were not maybe a bit ill-advised to take them on from where he did and all the rest of it, but he kept going and he kept working. Like Dave said, he never hides, and he keeps, even when he might be taking slightly the wrong thing, he sometimes has that scrappy quality to him, which just sees him come out the other side of a challenge or run down a blind alley, but then find his way back and make a pass and all the rest of it. I thought he was really good. Second half, he was one of the ones who just kept things going for us. He's had a few games, obviously, where he's come off the bench and been really impactful, earned a start, but then doesn't do well when he starts. So I'm glad that he eventually had a good outing overall. There was also I say a stat, it's more like a collection of stats, a herd of stats from Opta tonight, which makes Harvey Elliott at 20 years of age. Is that right? 20 years of age, Harvey Elliott? I'm not sure if I think that makes him much older or still much younger than I thought he was, but God's sake. Anyway, 20 years of age, Harvey Elliott tonight was the youngest player on record. So this is from 2008, 2009, like 15 years or something like that, to score a goal, have at least 5 shots, create at least 5 chances, have at least 10 touches in the opposition's penalty box, and make at least 25 passes ending in the final third in a Premier League match. All of those things he did. Now, obviously, not all of them are amazingly done. We've mentioned like a few shots were a bit wild and a few of the passes were underhit or whatever, but that level of involvement is non-stop. That's an all-game involvement kind of thing, even if some of it is good and some of it is not as good as it might have been. He created 7 chances for other people tonight. So add in the ones which he should have created chances and didn't, and they were a bit underhit or whatever. He was everywhere, and I really am glad that he's had an impactful starting performance, even if it took a little while to get going. Because, again, later on in the season, other Premier League matches, maybe in Europe, maybe even in the Cup final, we're going to need him. We're going to need our 13th, 14th, 15th best players to really step up and produce match-winning moments now and then. It can't always just be about the guys who, at the minute, are injured anyway. So one of these games, really, really good for a number of players, but I think Elliott might be top of the ones I'm glad came out of it with plenty of credit.
100%. Let me allow you to go off and wrangle whatever remaining stats you have into your final thoughts and invite Guy Drinkel onto the show for the sake of having to sum up opinions here. And Guy, it's a really, really important victory, but they're all going to be. But the nature of this one, coming from behind, coming from what was a lackluster opening half to the game, and putting the foot down on the throttle or putting the foot on the neck or whatever violent metaphor you want to say, it's heartening, man, that we can do it with what is essentially the second team.
Yeah, that's the main thing, I think. You shouldn't have to come into a game against Luton crapping yourself, but Karl injuring all those players at Brentford has really put a worry in my life.
Kick him off now, that's enough.
You know it was your fault. But no, it was just the fact that you looked at the team, and to be fair, I mean, was anyone else like, all my WhatsApp groups were like, McAllister's not with the team? It's like, can you piss off? Because that was a rumour before that McAllister wasn't fit. And I was like, this season's just cursed. But no, when you saw the actual team, it's like, this will be more than enough to beat Luton. And it was. We did it kind of the hard way with the first half where we forgot how to football, but that second half's pretty much the embodiment of everything that Klopp's had, whether it's Liverpool 2.0, 1.0, 15, 16, even when we had like random FIFA lads who we've never heard of and never heard of since playing. This was just an ultimate Klopp performance, and that second half, we're missing, 7 starters, I think Dave and everyone else has said on this pod. Missing more than that in terms of the squad. It's just magic that we've got an assortment of lads who will have never played together, probably didn't even train together because some of the injuries have been that late. And there's obviously Mo and Darwin were late doubts as well. So this team's never played together, whether in training or a game. And to come in, we played all right the first half, but the second half, come in, rocket up the arse at half-time, clearly, and then just put on a performance like that. It's magic, and you see the lads coming on like, I don't watch the Academy anymore. I barely watched it when I was pretending to do the Academy podcast back in the day. But lads I've never heard of just coming on, and for the Elliott goal, just dropping deep, linking play, we've spawned another one, have we? It's just fantastic stuff, and to get a win and you saw the glowing praise from the opposing manager and stuff like that, fantastic. I mean, I don't want to test how far we could go in terms of losing players and still doing this, but it's kind of interesting in a grotesque, macabre kind of way. Could we lose 15 players and still be the mentality monsters? I don't want to test it, but let's see. But no, that was the ultimate Klopp performance in the second half, and it's just great to see him. I think the story out of this one is just the young lads coming on, and maybe in combination, the young lads performing like Bradley, etc. We know, but we're kind of introducing the new set of reliable lads. I think we kind of had that. I think Fabinho was kind of one of them. Ginny was one of them. Now you could probably say McAllister's probably the prime example of the new reliable lads. You'd probably throw Endo in there growing into the season, as you mentioned earlier, Trev. And then we've got, obviously, Diaz, who decided to play like Darwin in the whole game because he missed him, clearly. But it's nice having this young core with new set of reliable lads that we will probably build Liverpool 2.0 and the beginnings of 3.0 if we're going to keep using that bloody format of thing. But yeah, just an absolute brilliant win.
A tremendous set of 3 points that we have, as Guy has highlighted, got in the bag tonight and leave ourselves with that lovely feeling of, if not smugness, then I think maybe the lads have always felt this. I don't know. But I think some of the fans are starting to think that the team deserves this. I was entirely disillusioned by the absolute shit the bed attitude that I saw when I logged onto Twitter in the first half. And I'm not trying to come across as some sort of positivity guru here at all, but like, I mean, if you learned nothing under Jurgen Klopp, you must believe, you must trust the team, you must, because there's nothing but evidence to the contrary, and doing anything other than that is actually being completely counterintuitive and completely going against what we have as a record of evidence. And Karl, to bring you in to close the show with your final thoughts, how would you sum that one up, and will you finish as well by letting us know what is available from you for the week to come?
How to sum it up? I don't think relieved is right, because I did always think that we were winning this one, even 5 minutes into the second half, it's still 1-0 or whatever. I'm pleased that we found a very different way to win this one. Like against Brentford, I kind of just wanted us to just get it done however it was needed. I thought it might be more difficult than it was. I thought it might be really awkward and terrifying at times, but I just wanted us to find a way. And we have done that, and we keep doing that. And I'm very glad that there are different manners that we've been able to do so. Like some of the games we've been excellent, and some of the games we've been slow to get started and then have won. And this one we kind of just eventually just battered the door down and remembered how good we are, even though some of the very, very finest players in the league were not available to us. I don't think we could have really reacted much better to the defeat to Arsenal than we have done. Obviously, 9 points, that's fine, that's great, but we've scored 3, we've scored 4, we've scored 4. And now we go and play the team who the game before Arsenal, we scored 4 against as well. So goal scoring wise, we're looking really, really good at the minute. Obviously, there were 1 or 2 things to sort out defensively. We haven't kept too many clean sheets, but you know what? Not many teams have in the Premier League this year. It just seems to be a lot of defence, or very, very best defence is not quite there this year in English football in general. So not too concerned with that, especially since, the cup final, it'd probably be 0-0 and go to penalties anyway, wouldn't it? I think at the minute we're probably in as good a position as we can be, minus those injuries, and we can't really do anything about that anyway. Only other things to really mention, mentioned Luis Diaz and taking 10 shots, and that's pretty cool. He's actually taken a shot and created a chance in every single Premier League match for us that he's played in since the 9th of December. So we're approaching 3 months now, and with the exception of Bournemouth, he shot, but he didn't create a chance in that game. But that's a really, really good run of impactful final third activity from the guy who's likely to be first name on the team sheet against Chelsea just by virtue of being the only one of the front three who was a regular starter and absolutely fit. So lots of reasons to be positive, even though we've got absences. There are, to be honest, a million other stats that I could bring out from this game just because there is such a lot happened, to be perfectly honest. We had such a lot of the ball. I think I'll stick with Joe Gomez finishing on 94% passing completion rate, which for quite an attacking fullback is pretty damn good. I think better than everybody else on the pitch, possibly. And Harvey Elliott, that was his 100th game for us tonight as well, so a nice little milestone for him. From me, we'll obviously be having a Carabao Cup final scouted. I will probably have a piece on that ahead of the weekend, and I'll be at Wembley for a couple more written pieces from there.
Tremendous. Hope you have a wonderful day there. If you are not, then currently make yourself a absolute devotee of anything that young Karl Matchett is putting out. You'd be silly not to. The writing is wonderful. The podcasts are wonderful. Guy Drinkel kicked in to help us out there. Another man who is constantly contributing to this channel in a very, very positive way. If you get a chance to listen to Guy doing his thing, do it. And Dave Hendrick, who had to leave early, is the most consistent contributor to this channel with his daily podcasts. He creates more hours of content than anybody else. And we recently found out that there were 6,000 podcasts in the Anfield Index canon. I'd imagine Dave's on the vast majority of those. It's a serious shift put in by that chap. So give him some flowers if you get the opportunity to do so. And for love of God, just at least listen to the shows. They're tremendous and quite literally some of the very few things I listen to football-wise. I've been Trev Downey. You heard Dave Hendrick. You heard Karl Matchett. You heard Guy Drinkel. This is Raw. The Reds, top of the league. We'll talk to you soon.
We hope you enjoyed listening to this Anfield Index show. Please be sure to subscribe to our channel so future podcasts find their way to your device automatically. There's nothing quite like fan engagement, and we'd love to know what you think of anything discussed on this show. The best way to get in touch is over on our free Discord community, where both podcasters and listeners debate the hottest LFC topics 24/7. Sign up free now at AnfieldIndex.com/Discord. You won't regret it. You can also follow us on Twitter at Anfield Index and find us on Facebook by searching for Anfield Index. Oh, and before you go, we'd love it if you could leave us a 5-star review on your favourite podcast app. It only takes a couple of seconds, and it means the world to the people who create these free shows.
Sports Social Podcast Network.
When you wake up well-rested on a great mattress, everything becomes clear.
I do overthink everything.
Things you missed when you were tired finally reveal themselves.
I should just get fake plants.
It's the President's Day sale at Mattress Firm. Get a king bed for a queen price. Save up to $700 plus a free adjustable base with select Sealy mattresses. See a lower price? We'll match it. The right mattress matters. We'll find yours. Restrictions apply. See store or website for details.